I am hoping to find. Maybe I am desperate for love. What does that mean? I care about love. It's been a number of years since I've felt it. Unless if being an imaginary boyfriend counts, because that does feel like love to me. And perhaps it's because I've been practicing abstinence for an extended period of time that just the thought of a real heart connection is really exciting. Or like the thought of our pinkies touching or our noses touching. It sounds phenomenal. And the way that I feel excited about like caressing somebody's hair that I don't even know who they are. But I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power of two people being intentional to share time and space and touch if they want to, if it feels good. I believe that there's that potential, and I know that that is so incredibly difficult to find. In particular, at this point in time, there are so many barriers to finding love, and so many of us are deeply disconnected in so many ways. So maybe we're living in a time where it's almost a culture of lovelessness. And sometimes when I look at people's marriages or long-term relationships, I question whether they actually know what love is or what their definition of love is. I think for some people, love isn't about sharing, it isn't about caring, but it's about some sort of a capitalist some sort of a greed machine. And to me, that's not love. That's money. That's power. That's competition, but it's not love. the world that I want to live in is a world where everybody is committed to showing up with integrity, with empathy, where everybody has food and a safe place to rest and sleep, and where there isn't so much shame about being, and so much shame about loving, and so much shame about taking off our clothes. I used to really struggle with that for so many years. I couldn't just get changed before swimming class, and I became a lifeguard without really having the skill of getting changed in front of other people, needing to have that privacy. In order to put on a swimsuit. I remember crying and crying and crying, feeling so much shame around my body, around different aspects of my body. And somehow I became a lifeguard. And even I think years after becoming a lifeguard, for the recertification course, I was still swimming in shame and crying and I can't believe that I've gotten to this place where I still cry sometimes, but I can change in change rooms. And I suppose a part of this process has been some of my rituals around reimagining how I experience nudity and different practices of wanting to celebrate my body. And I grew up feeling like there was something terribly wrong if somebody wasn't wearing clothing. And now I know that there's nothing wrong with our bodies being nude in a safe place. We don't need to cover up our bodies in order to be safe, and it doesn't necessarily make us safer. And that type of victim blaming, of telling women to cover up their bodies, puts the responsibility on women for the bad behavior of men. And I'm speaking in a very particular type of understanding of violence and sexual harassment, and it is possible for men to experience sexual violence and sexual harassment. I have experienced both. But most sexual violence happens to women from men. And it is important to talk about that. And perhaps I've been in this navel-gazing, transformative journey, trying to heal myself, and haven't talked about that enough. I think that's probably true. And I want to be gentle with myself because I am on this healing journey, and I think it's confusing to me as someone who's experienced most of the sexual violence and neglect has been from women and femmes. That I have experienced, if I didn't say that. Which is not typical of our society, but I think it is important to have a conversation about it. And I think we don't, as a society, recognize that potential. And I think there's a lot of people that are suffering in silence because we're afraid that people won't believe us or won't take our pain seriously. I feel like that even as I say this, but I still say it. And I'm proud of myself for expressing myself. And I don't see myself as a victim. I see myself as a survivor that is trying to love in as many ways as possible and to share love with the universe. And I'm not fully healed, and I probably never will be, and maybe none of us will be. But I think we can be closer and closer and closer, little bit by little bit. I hadn't thought about that former best friend for so many years. No, not years, but months. I'm still waking up. But I was like, she feels very much in the past. And she still visited me when I was asleep or something. And it takes years to heal sometimes. It's not something that happens overnight. But I think choosing to love is something we can do right now. Choosing to show up for ourselves after perhaps years of neglecting ourselves, which is what I did for years as a response to experiences of neglect growing up and then in my adult relationships. And it's this journey of loving, a journey of learning to love myself or unlearning hating myself by choosing love or doing my best to, day after day after day. And maybe nobody will ever watch any of this, and I will still be grateful for this experience of being an imaginary boyfriend. Because I love to love. I believe in love. And maybe nobody will ever date me ever again. And I love this. I'm thinking about the Barbie movie and how Ken couldn't have a good day without having Barbie's attention and love. And maybe I live in some sort of a reality that is deeply disconnected from what people consider reality, although what people consider reality has changed and is continuing to change as our understanding of technology is changing. So we can go days and months and years without touching somebody. And I believe that it's possible to touch somebody without actually touching in real time with skin. There are time traveling, space traveling opportunities, and I believe that this is one of them. And I love it. It feels like magic, and it feels like love. And I'm really into it. Like, maybe it's become an obsession. I think a lot of people are obsessed with hate. Maybe I choose to be obsessed with love. What if love is a choice? Would you choose love? What if loving ourselves is a choice? I hated myself. Or I wrestled with myself. I struggled to love myself. And it's still not easy some days, some moments. I really have to wrestle with myself to love myself. And I think it's important to fight to love ourselves. I don't usually believe in fighting as a concept, but in terms of the metaphor of wrestling with ourselves, when we live in a culture where there's so much deep disconnection, of course we're disconnected from ourselves. Of course we're disconnected from our bodies. And my mission is to reconnect our holistic, transformative alignment through creative practices, rituals, and experiments. And I love to do this love work and to share it with the universe. And I love this opportunity that I never would have imagined growing up, being afraid to take a theater class, even afraid to take an art class. I took music classes and I took computer programming classes, but I was terrified of being on stage and refused to be in any aspect of high school drama. Yeah. I'm proud of myself for finding my voice. It is a big deal. Yeah. It's a really big deal. I think I've had so many other people's voices in my head, and I still do have other people's voices in my head. And this is my voice to share love as an imaginary boyfriend. Yeah. Imaginary boyfriend, imaginary boyfriend, imaginary boyfriend, imaginary boyfriend, imaginary boyfriend. And I just want to say, I don't assume that you want to fuck me. I'm open to the possibility, but also open to the possibility that it's entertaining to watch an imaginary boyfriend and not want to fuck him. So I don't think that, like, in my heart, I believe in the possibility that we both want to share love and to make love in this universe. And deep down, I do have an awareness at this point in my life that it is entirely possible that this is not about the sex, but it's about something deeper, something beyond sex. And I find that really exciting. And really, phenomenal sex, in my experience, does require more than just a physical connection. Yeah. But if we were to live in a world where technology was making it extremely difficult to have meaningful in-person relationships that are based on eye contact and being in real life together and touching each other, I do think that there's a place for some sort of a male modeling of vulnerability and transformation and healing from heartbreak and neglect. There's so many men that suffer in silence and try to run away and escape into these really dangerous addictions that are quite normalized. Like, sometimes I see porn addictions as normalized, and I don't want to shame people for watching porn. I don't want to also make it seem like there isn't an impact on our brains if we consume extreme content. Our brains are constantly changing. I can feel my brain change depending on what I put into my body, depending on how I move my body, how I touch my body. Our brains are changing based on how we live and how we love. And generally, I don't think porn is about love at all. I think it's about escaping and disconnecting further from each other. And I fear that one aspect of the orgasm gap and of the challenges that so many people are experiencing and connecting is related to the deep disconnectedness of mainstream porn. This is all I have to say. I think it's time for me to sign off and to nourish myself. And if you've made it this far, I think you should probably nourish yourself too. Let's nourish ourselves.